Today Reddit asks, who is your real life hero? What did they do for you? By Aspiring MAGA. Please like, subscribe, share and leave a comment. A random dude I met at a mall. I was 15 years old and I had just started my first part-time job. During my lunch break I was sitting on a bench texting my friend when this old man suddenly put his hand on my thigh and started stroking me. I yelled, "Stop touching me!" and immediately got up. I felt scared, alone and incredibly vulnerable. Only one person reacted. He came over and asked me if everything was okay. I was shaking and I just said that I had to get back to work. He then offered to follow me so that I wouldn't have to walk by myself. He made me feel somewhat safe in a very scary situation. So yeah, that dude is my hero. Wow, that guy is a great person. Yes, but I also believe more people should do this. It shouldn't be heroic, it should be commonplace. It's terrifying that no one else reacted. It scares me that there's a high likelihood that no one would have done a single thing. Everyone should be more like that guy. Don't be a bystander and remember this man if you ever see any situation where someone needs help. Just be a good human being and think of others. It's not that hard. A few weeks ago, a woman gave my 8-year-old son the Heimlich. A random guy who saved my dog's life one night. I had just adopted a large German Shepherd / lab mix that night and brought him outside of my apartment to pee. I didn't have the right collar, didn't realise he had never seen traffic before, so he immediately panicked, backed out of his collar and sprinted across a 4-lane, very busy road in front of my apartment. I ran after him, dodging traffic, and miraculously got him to come back to me. But he wouldn't let me put the collar back on him, so I was just kneeling on the sidewalk in my pyjamas, clutching this giant, terrified dog. Traffic speeding past me, wondering how the F I was going to get him back inside. And then this random guy appeared in a very nice suit and jacket and asked if I needed help, and I basically said, "Yes, can you carry my dog back into my building?" And without a second thought, he reached down, scooped up my giant dog like a baby and walked with me back into my apartment. Brushed himself off and said he was late for a dinner. I gave him a hug and he walked off. He was amazing and I think about him all the time. Edit. This is my dog a 1.5 years later. We now live in a house with an awesome yard and he's a very happy guy. Your story reminds me of another dog saviour. Well, saviours. Years ago, the rescue I work with was called for a case of possible abuse. There we went and found a very angry, very drunk homeowner that refused to let us set feet on his property. While we could see in the backyard 2 Frenchy puppies chained to a metal barrel, no shelter, no accessible water, as we were there. The garbage truck came in and the guys waited for us after and asked a lot of questions. We left empty-handed and put a request for police help without much hopes. The morning after our phone rang, the garbage guys had snuck the puppies out in a goddamn garbage can. They had come back on purpose and saved the puppies for us. I still think about those guys regularly and hope the kindness they showed to 2 poor starved dogs pours back to them by the 100-fold. My dad. My biological father took off when I was young. When my mother met and married my dad, he treated me great, never tried to push himself on me. In 3rd grade, I asked him to adopt me. Since we didn't have a lot of money, he worked 2 to 3 jobs at a time so they could afford it. He reminds me always that he loves me and he has almost punched a few lousy relatives who called me his stepson. He corrects them very quickly that I am in fact his son. I'm very proud of him and hope to become the type of man he is. This reminds me of my family. My brother's biological father abandoned him and my mother when he was very little, so my biological father, his stepdad, has always been his real dad. Unfortunately, my uncle, dad's brother, didn't see it that way. He invited our family, including all my other siblings, to come visit him for the summer, but said that my brother wasn't welcome because he isn't really family. That comment pissed my dad off so much that he cut contact with his brother, and they haven't spoken in over 10 years. Screw people who think that biology is the most important aspect of a family. My father-in-law accepts me into his very conservative traditional family, even though at the time I didn't have a job, had no savings to speak of, and came from a different country to live under his roof with no real plan. It took me several years to get on my feet, and he never did or said a single thing to make me feel unwelcome or small, even though he could have easily have done so. He celebrated all of my small successes and helped us out financially at key moments. even though he was not at all wealthy. He did this because he trusted his daughter's choice, even though in our culture marriages are usually arranged and a woman's opinion counts for less than a man's. And also, I like to think, because I worked really hard to make a good impression on him and let him know how grateful I am. He's a good guy and has taught me a lot. Edit. Holy thanks for the gold, kind stranger. Wow, I think your father-in-law is my real-life hero too. I also choose this man's father-in-law. My dad. He's a funny a-hole with a huge heart and a genius mind. He's exactly who I want to be and shows me that it's not all about success, it's about people and love. But he'd never say that, and I love that. This troubled kid I went to school with accidentally saved my life once. So one day I'm in technology class. This was back when technology wasn't in the classroom. You had to bring the class to the technology. And the teacher is showing us how to do something. This teacher played favourite and she was always asking me to answer questions or go to the board to do something. One day I have a random boner. It happens a lot in middle school. That I was trying to ignore when the teacher calls my name to solve something on the whiteboard. Why does he always get called on? The kid shouted out. The teacher looked caught off guard for a moment. Maybe she didn't realise she played faves. And then said, I didn't mean to. How about you solve this one? He went up to the board and saved me some embarrassment. Looking back on it, I don't know if I would have awkwardly tried to get out of going up there or if I would have gone up and tried somehow to hide my erection. Don't know how I would have done that either. It was one of them hard all the way to the tip ones you get in your youth. We're in our 30s now. The guy joined the Marines after high school and moved away. We're still friends on Facebook, and one day, a couple of years ago, he posted something about being depressed, so I told him the story of how he saved me. I hope it cheered him up a little. My grandpa, Mum's dad. A former police officer who gave me all the father and son happy memories my father refused to give because he was never home. Later we discovered my father had a second family, abandoned us and never returned. With my grandpa I learned how to shave, ride a bicycle, drive a car, basic car and home maintenance, drive a tractor, defend myself in a fight, firearm handling and safety, fishing, camping, woodworking, first aid, basic electronics, etc. I had my first beer with him, and he was the first person who met my first girlfriend when I was 15. On his last week with us, he called his lawyer to do the paperwork and gave me his car. A 1974 cherry red Volkswagen Beetle. I still have it. My first grade teacher. My kindergarten teacher did F all to teach us anything and would mislead my parents about my progress in class. So I went into my first grade barely able to read, write, and despite being well behaved at home, I was a kid of a S-head at school. My S-head attitude went away real quick when I got to first grade. After many stern talks, calls to my parents and timeouts. I still remember the faded white and green mat she had in the corner 25 years later. If stopped being a little a-hole, she would work with me every day to improve my reading and kept pushing me to work harder. By the end of first grade, I was reading at third grade level. When I was a kid, I would have told you she was my least favourite teacher. I hated having to take my free time to do extra work with her. I just wanted to play with blocks with my friends. Now I look back on it fondly. I'm not sure who I'd be without her today. The next time I had a teacher like her who was willing to put in the extra time with a student wasn't until 11th grade. I wish there were more teachers like her. My best friend. She lives one continent away and still to this day doesn't know how amazing she is. Not that I don't try and tell her. We met during our MSc in Aberdeen while I was extremely ill. I wasn't really well enough to make most of the classes and was usually late, so one day we were both late and we became lab partners as everyone else was paired up. I've never been so lucky. As I deteriorated, she visited me almost every day, making sure I was still here, making me cups of tea, which is impressive for an American. I was very close to suicide as the pain got worse. I was no longer sleeping or eating, but she was always there. This tiny little 5-foot black woman, spunky as hell. She burst into my room, sat me down and just talked to me. Inevitably, when I ended up in hospital, finally having the operations I needed to help fix me, she was there. When I had to leave my course, she came and visited me. See, it wasn't that she could burst through walls or some other rubbish. She is simply one of the kindest human beings I've ever met. At every turn where I needed somebody, she was there. Finally, after 3 years, I finally have enough money to fly over and see her in a month. I can't wait. I just want to sweep her up in a great big hug and tell her how much I've missed her. A young woman who came to my rescue one night. My coked-up ex had just thrown me out of my home and I had everything I could manage to grab on me. I had no money because cokehead ex managed to financially cripple me. I was sitting at this train station crying my eyes out and coke ex turned up and started screaming at me. she was working. She had to wait until the sleeper went through the station. She made sure my ex knew she was there. He didn't like to show his real self in front of others, so he went away. She lent me money to stay in a hostel for the night and gave me some food and a couple of cans of Coke. She was only about 20 and didn't have to get involved. I hope nothing but good happens in her life. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Cheers!